it's Erin from littleslovelearning.com. And today we are going to talk all about writing with our preschool, pre-K, and kindergarten little ones. We're going to talk a little bit about handwriting, and we're also going to talk about writing in terms of having them connect the letters with the sounds and being able to write that down on their paper. So let's dive in. We're first going to talk about handwriting. So for handwriting, we want to back up, and before we give our little ones a pencil in their hand, we want to make sure that we're developing their fine motor skills, which are the muscles in their wrists and hands. And we want to make sure we're developing their gross motor skills, because gross motor skills are actually super important with handwriting, especially having a strong core. So we want to be working on those skills as well. Then, when they are ready to have a pencil or a crayon in their hand, I think it's really important to know about the age that they're going to be when they can form certain lines, because they're not going to be able to do all of them right away. So a chart like this is really helpful, and you can find this over on my website, littleslovelearning.com. I have a whole blog post all about handwriting. I'll link it below. But it shows the ages when most students are able to draw these lines. Now, of course, these are averages, so they're not going to be true for every student, but I think it gives us an idea of when they're going to reach these skills. So very quickly, at 2 years old, they can draw a line going up and down. 2.5, draw a line going from side to side. 3 years old is a circle. 3.5 is the cross shape. Then 4 is the square, and actually being able to connect those lines, that can be tricky. 4.5, the diagonal lines. And then 5, we have the X shape and we have the triangle. So again, you can find this over on my website, and you can make sure that you read all about handwriting development there. But just very quickly, I wanted to show this to you so that you understood when we are asking our little ones to write letters, we might be asking them to do something that developmentally they're not ready for. That's why we have to be really strategic in our instruction for handwriting. I have previous videos all about this. I will link down below, but I do believe that little ones should learn how to write the uppercase letters first before they're taught the lowercase letters, especially because they are less sophisticated than the lowercase letters and they are easier for little ones to write. And if we look at this chart, these up and down lines that most of our letters, our uppercase letters, are formed with are going to be a lot easier than the tricky lowercase letters that have a lot different line development. Now, in addition to the handwriting, we also want to understand how our little ones' writing development happens, meaning their writing of words, how they're connecting the letters with the sounds to spell words. So if we gave them a word to spell, they're going to have different phases that they're in based on their development. The 4 phases are right here. So the first phase is pre-alphabetic, so they are not making any connection between the letters and the sounds. So maybe we ask them to spell a word, and they just give us scribbles. That is showing us that they're in that pre-alphabetic phase. They could also be showing us mock letters. So mock letters look like letters, but they're not actual real letters, but they're trying to, we can see our little ones trying to understand that these sounds must be represented by something, and so they use these mock letters. And then, of course, random letter strings. So that's if you ask your little one to spell cat and they put QZY and they say, that spells cat. We know they have no connection between the letters and the sounds. Now in the second phase, that's the semi-phonetic phase. That's when they're starting to develop that connection between the letters and the sounds. It's emerging, but it's not very strong yet. Now, usually what we'll see is the first sound in a word might be represented by the correct letter, and then the rest wouldn't be, because that beginning sound is always the easiest to isolate. So let's say, for example, they wanted to write the word firefighter. They might be able to hear the f and know that that's spelled with an F. So we might see an F on their paper, and then we wouldn't maybe see any other letters that represent sounds. It's just emerging, this alphabetic principle. They're just starting to figure that out. And then the third one is the phonetic phase, which many of us are familiar with. That could be from kindergarten to second grade, where they are spelling it phonetically based on the rules that they know, the phonics rules and conventions that they've learned. So let's say, for example, we ask them to spell the word space. They hear S-P-A-S. So maybe they spell it S-P-A-S because they know that S is represented with an S. And maybe they haven't learned or haven't remembered that CE can also be the S sound. So that would be the phonetic phase. And then of course the fourth one is conventional, and that's when they are able to write conventionally. They understand how the letters and the sounds go together. They understand the phonics rules, and so they're able to write correctly and conventionally. So these are the 4 phases. The great part about these writing phases is that we are able to kind of see inside a child's brain by looking at how they write and understanding what connections they're making with the letters and the sounds. Because we can't always, know that. We can't see inside their brains. But if we see the way that they're writing, we can figure out which phase they're in, and we can figure out how to support them better. So let me show you some examples of each of these phases. So let's say my little one wants to write the word rocket. Maybe they drew a picture of a rocket ship and they want to write rocket. If they're in the pre-alphabetic phase and they're in the scribble phase, it's going to look like this, just scribbles. They have no letter knowledge whatsoever. If they are in the mock letter phase, maybe they have something like this or this. Mock letters, letters that they think are letters, but they're not really letters. And then after the scribble and the mock letter phase, we have the random letters, just a string of letters that don't have anything to do with the word rocket. So maybe we have X, Q, Z, B, and they say that says rocket. That is all part of the pre-alphabetic phase. And then phase 2, we come down here, that's the semi-phonetic phase. So if I'm asking them to write the word rocket, maybe they can hear rocket, and maybe they know that that is going to be spelled with an R. But maybe that's all they know. Maybe they can't hear the rest of the sounds, or they're not sure what the letters are that go with those sounds. So maybe you have something like this. Rocket. They get that first one, but they don't get the rest. It's semi-phonetic. The third phase, the phonetic phase. So maybe they're writing the word rocket and they're able to separate the sounds. R, A, K, I, T. And they start thinking of how those letters go with the sounds. So they might write R, A, K, I, T. And that would be how they spelled rocket, because they're sounding it out phonetically. And that would be really amazing if you saw this, because you would know that they are understanding that connection between the letters and the sounds. And then, of course, the last phase, conventional, they have learned how to spell rocket. Maybe they've learned that you use CK after a short vowel, and they've learned that it's ET at the end, and it's rocket. So those would be the 4 different phases of writing development that our little ones go through. And this is just an example of writing the word rocket. So I hope this information was helpful for you. I do think it's important to know the phases of writing development in conjunction with handwriting development, because we don't want our little ones to start developing bad habits when they are forming their letters. We want them to have the correct pencil strokes. It is going to be much better for them as they move into kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, and they start having to write longer words, that they don't get tired because they're forming the letters incorrectly or they're holding their pencil incorrectly. So we do want to work on that handwriting development. And we also want to see how this writing development impacts their literacy development overall, because we want to see how they're connecting the letters with the sounds, how they're putting the pieces together. They're understanding the alphabetic principle, and that they are able to spell these words going from a more phonetic to a more conventional way. So I think it's really interesting, important for us early childhood educators and parents to understand. If you have any questions about anything that I shared today, you can comment down below or find me on my website, littleslovelearning.com. I will link some additional resources down below, my blog post all about handwriting development. I will also link a video about why I teach uppercase letters first, including teaching uppercase names first before I teach it conventionally, and also ideas for how you could strengthen your little one's fine motor skills, and ideas for how to help them write their names. So lots of resources are going to be listed for you down below. I hope you check them out. And until the next video, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.